2021 Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. And first we'll start with roll call, starting to my left.
All the way over here. Don Kurt.
Brenda Hampstead.
Hodge Patel.
Todd Chernick.
Jason Cole.
Stephanie Butler. Kim Keller.
We have a full board. If you'd please stand and join us with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I make a motion to approve tonight's meeting agenda as published.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving tonight's meeting agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. That motion passed unanimous. Item number 5 on our agenda is approval of our August 2021 meeting minutes. I make a motion to approve those as published.
Second.
That was seconded by both Hodge and Don. Any discussion regarding the meeting minutes? I know we had some members who were not at the last meeting. Feel free to abstain. All those in favor of approving August 2021 meeting minutes, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain?
Abstain.
Abstain. Abstain.
So we have Brenda, Jason, and Kim abstaining. That motion passed. Item number 6 is consideration of primary variances. The Board of Zoning Appeals is a quasi-judicial board comprised of resident volunteers of the City of Milton. The board is charged with hearing requests for variances from the standards of the zoning ordinance and appeals of administrative determination. With regard to decisions on primary variances, the board's basis for decisions is provided by these 4 considerations. A, relief if granted would not offend the spirit or intent of the ordinance. And B, there are such extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property that the literal or strict application of the ordinance would create an unnecessary hardship due to size, shape, or topography, or other extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions not caused by the variance applicant. And C, relief if granted would not cause a substantial detriment to the public good and surrounding properties. And D, that the public's safety, health, and welfare are secured and that substantial justice is done. With that, I'd introduce our first variance request is V21-19, 15140 Hopewell Road. Would staff please present?
V2119, 15140 Hopewell Road. Requested variance is to allow an existing residence to be located in the City of Milton's 50-foot stream buffer and 75-foot impervious setback. The site is a 6.38 acre lot on the west side of Hopewell Road. The property is zoned AG1 and is located in rural Milton Overlay District. Per section 2426(1)(2), the city requires 50-foot stream buffer and 75-foot impervious setback for building near the streams. This property has a residence that was built in 1974. The stream is located on the west part of the property, as can be seen in Exhibit A. Part of the house is within 50-foot stream buffer and 75-foot impervious setback. As per the current stream buffer setback requirements of the zoning ordinance, The house is legal non-compliant. No further development would be allowed until the property is brought to the compliance. Therefore, this variance is requested. There is a barn on the property in the front yard which will be demolished, so it does not require a variance. The existing house will remain part of the future subdivision that is under review. Exhibit B is showing the pictures of the property. On September 7th, 2021, DRB met and had following comments. DRB recommends approval of the variance as requested. Staff recommends no conditions at this time.
Are there any questions for staff? Okay, with no questions then, if the applicant would please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Scott Reese with Brumlow Reese & Associates, doing business at 13685 Highway 9, Milton, Georgia, 30004. I'm here tonight representing the Rohde family and their application for the variance to allow their existing house to be located in the 50-foot stream buffer and the 75-foot impervious setback. I was going to try to, thought I did. So, you see the site plan in front of you. Just to kind of reiterate a little bit of what Shuby went over. The house was constructed in 1974. At that time, there were no zoning conditions in unincorporated Fulton County for the location of residences or structures next to streams. That's why if you go down the Chattahoochee River, you see houses that sit virtually on the bank. At that time, it was completely legal, so the house was permitted and approved in 1974 and constructed. The Rohde family purchased the property in 1999. Sometime around there, Fulton County created, well, it was in compliance with the Clean Waters Act. So the state enacted a 25-foot state buffer on warm water streams and 50 feet on trout streams. Fulton County took and enhanced that later with a doubling of the 25 to a 50-foot. And then when the creation of the city of Milton, they enacted Fulton County's ordinances at the time. So now we have a 50-foot buffer and a 75-foot impervious setback. So nothing changed on the house. It stayed exactly the same. The rules did change. So Milton's ordinances require that any grandfathered or existing non-conforming structure or situation be brought into compliance. Otherwise, your property is in virtual lockdown. You can't add on to a structure. You can't improve a structure. You can't sell off part of your property. You can do nothing until this nonconformity is brought into compliance. So that's what we're here for now. The Rohdes have reached a point in their life where they would like to sell part of their property. They're going to be keeping the house and a little over 2 acres, or the plan, if everything goes through. The variance is not asking for any more encroachment into the stream buffer. We're not asking for additional impervious areas in there. It's just to bring the existing nonconformity into compliance. So that's where we're at. So it's kind of an unfortunate situation that they're stuck now. They can't do anything whatsoever with their property until it's brought into compliance. So that's why we're here. I hope I've explained it. If you have any questions, I will be more than glad to try to answer those. Thank you so much.
I do have a question, Mr. Reese.
Yes.
Regarding the existing barn and the intent to demolish, can you elaborate on that?
Well, the possible future owner will probably develop the property, and in that case,
any existing structures would probably be non-compliant because of new lot lines and setbacks. So it's anticipated all other structures on the property will be taken down.
So, as you indicated, I'd like staff's perspective on this. If, in addressing this variance request, for the home, to make this property legal and conforming, it's non-conforming currently, without addressing the barn, is that going to create any issues with them selling off part of their property? Or, as we know, there's a minor subdivision plat that's being considered regarding this property tomorrow. So with that barn, not addressing that barn in this variance request, will that create any encumbrance for the applicant?
No, because that'll be addressed at the point when they come in, before their land disturbance permit, or before they come in for building permits, so, yes.
And it won't affect them selling off that portion
No.
of the property?
Because they could, after the preliminary plat is approved, they can apply for their demolition permit right after that.
Okay.
And I think the barn is compliant, except for the possibility if it would be a structure housing animals. At this time, it's just like a hay barn. So it is compliant based upon the use at this time.
That's good clarification. If it were housing animals, it would need to be
It'd be
100
feet
feet from the property line.
Or livestock. Let me reiterate it. It's the verbiage is structures housing livestock. So if you had 2 rabbits, you probably wouldn't have to be 100 feet away from the property line.
Okay. Is there any additional questions for the applicant? All right. As the order of business would, you can have a seat. We'll open for public comment, and then you'll have a chance to make a closing comment if you care to. As we move into public comment, we'll continue with the opportunity for the public to speak first in favor and then in opposition in equal amounts of time. I'd ask staff, do we have interest in speaking for public comment on this case?
Yes, there is one, what's his name? Alex Tucker.
In favor or
In
in
favor.
in favor? Okay. If Alex, if you'd please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and I just ask that you be sensitive to the amount of time. We are boxed to, or limited, I should say, to 10 minutes overall. The applicants use some of that time.
Hey, thank you. Council members. JR is my father-in-law.
1 second. Please state your name and address
Oh,
for the
sorry.
record.
Alex Tucker, 435 Montgomery Ferry, Atlanta, Georgia, 30309.
Okay.
Sorry. Yes, so my father-in-law is the owner of the property, and I wasn't sure how much was going to get said in context. I don't think there's much more for me to fill in. I'll be very brief. The house has pre-existed. They're not changing anything to the, floor plan, roof line, anything. They just want to be attached to the neighborhood that's getting kind of built around them. So that's it.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification. Any additional public comment?
No, not for that one.
Is there anyone wishing to speak? All right. Hearing and seeing no other interest in public comment, I'd open the floor to the applicant for a closing statement if necessary. Okay. Are there any final questions for staff or the applicant before I close the public comment?
My question would be, if at some point they wanted to tear this existing house down, would this variance stay? You know what I mean? If they wanted to rebuild a home there, a new owner?
I'd ask the city attorney to address that.
I will say, if you want to make sure that it doesn't, to include that as a condition, it's only applicable to the existing structure.
So they could.
It would certainly be subject to argument and
Okay.
I would, if you are concerned about it, I would address it to make it clear that would not be, it could be.
Stating that the
potentially
variance
used.
request applies to the existing structure per the site plan.
Yeah.
Any other questions of staff, council, the applicant? All right. I'll make a note that the public comment is closed, and I'll open the floor for a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion. As it relates to the standards for consideration, I concur with the applicant's appeal as presented. I would add that the existing structure remain as outlined on Exhibit A.
And your motion, I'm assuming then, is to approve.
Motion to approve.
I'll second. Is there any discussion? For the record, Exhibit A is the site plan by Brumbelow Reese and Associates, received July 19th, 2021.
Was Kim's suggestion added in there? I didn't.
I'd like a clarification as to what the motion, if what conditions were. I did obviously hear motion to approve. There was description about the site plan. I assume that means conditioned upon.
Conditioned
only.
upon the existing structure remaining
So
and not being torn down.
the variance is only applicable to the existing structure as shown on the site
Exhibit
plan.
A. Mhm.
Okay. That sounds like it includes what Ms. Keller.
Any further discussion?
Do we need to clarify the barn? We're talking existing structure or not?
It's up to you. From what I've heard and from looking, it doesn't sound like there's any need to address it. You're welcome to, if you have concerns, address them, but there's no need for legal purposes.
I was getting more at the point of existing structure differentiating between the home and the barn was more of my point.
My understanding with the variance would allow the existing structure as shown on the Exhibit A to remain. No further variance beyond that existing structure. So the barn wouldn't come into play in that instance, since it's not impeding into the.
It's not out of compliance.
Right,
And it's the variance is for the buffer and the barn is not really.
not
in
near the
buffer.
buffer.
Understood.
Right.
That's good clarification. The existing structure in this case refers to the home, the primary residence, which is impacting the stream buffer. All right, so I'll restate the motion for clarification for everyone before I ask for a vote. The motion is to approve V21-19 per Exhibit A, site plan received on July 19th, 2021 by Brumbelow Reese and Associates, referencing the existing structure as shown in that exhibit. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. That motion passed unanimous. The next item on our agenda is V21-20, which is for 12745 New Providence Road. Would staff please present?
V2120, 12745 New Providence Road. The requested variance is to allow the front yard setback from 60 feet.
Shuba, hang on one second. Let's give them a chance to clear out.
Bob didn't design that lobby right with acoustics.
Uh-huh. Sorry for interrupting. Please start from the top.
V2120, 12745 New Providence Road. Requested variance is to allow the front yard setback, to reduce this front yard setback from 60 feet to 25 feet for a new house. The site is a 1.928 acre lot on the east side of New Providence Road in Meadowwood subdivision. The property is zoned AG1 and is located in rural Milton overlay district. Per section 64-416B, the city requires 60-foot front setback. This parcel is a flag lot and the front setback does not fall within stem portion of the flag lot. For section 64-77-3, measurements for a front yard setback shall begin at the point of intersection of the stem and the flag portion of the flag lot running along the property line, the most perpendicular to the stem. Exhibit A is showing the site survey with the proposed house located on the property. It also shows the topography on the site. Site slopes considerably on the east side and ends at a stream in the rear. The septic field is on the south side of the property. This part of the proposed house is encroaching into the front yard setback. Therefore, the variance is requested to reduce the front yard setback to 25 feet from 60 feet. Exhibit B is showing the final plat recorded in 2014. On September 7th, 2021, DRB met and had following comments. DRB recommends approval of the variance. Staff recommends no conditions at this time.
Can we put the site plan up for reference? Shuba, you mentioned a couple things in the staff background, and that is the reference to the stem and the 60-foot. Can you point that out for the public and us?
Not all stem is visible, but this is stem.
Show them the other plot.
Hold on, let me show you.
Just show us the intersection.
Front yard setback starts at the stem and the flag.
Okay.
And in the final plat, lot number 3 is the one subject lot.
Okay. If we can go back to their specific site plan referencing the house, proposed house. I think a couple things for clarification. And part of this is cut off. Both the primary and the reserve septic system are noted on this drawing here as septic field. Just wanted the board to recognize that, or and then the topography to the rear of the house, we can see is steep slopes based on the lines, topo lines. What I'll be asking for clarification, and please keep this up when the applicant comes forward, is for some dimension references to the property line for these structures. Is there additional questions for staff before we have the applicant come forward? Okay. Go ahead,
Sorry.
Ms. Keller.
And maybe it's on here and I'm not seeing it. How are they accessing? Is there driveway down the stem part? Okay.
I guess I do have another question. So the garage, is that attached? So it's not considered a separate building that's closer to the road? Because it's an attached building? Is that the case? I mean, it's not considered a structure that sits in front of the house, that garage?
It's encroaching. Is it?
No, I don't mean, I'm sorry, I don't mean the building line. I mean the fact that, what I'm trying to say is that an accessory structure?
Yeah, and
garage.
so it looks like there's a breezeway that connects it, so we just consider it all one structure. So if those two lines weren't between the garage and the residence, then it would be
Then it would be-
detached. But even a covered walkway is considered attached and would be all one building.
Okay.
So
Great, thank you.
even if it was accessory structure, it would still have to comply with building setbacks.
That I understand. I just didn't know if it was considered an accessory a building. I think I understand. Since it's attached, we're okay.
Good question.
And is it just, in looking at this, is it just the garage that's encroaching?
Well, part of the corner of the house is encroaching into 60 feet
Can
front
you
yard.
identify that on the,
Right here.
Right, so so even when you, that's a good point.
Oh, I see. I was looking at the Kirby line. Okay, gotcha.
So when you look at it, the closest that it would be is almost that 25 foot to the 3-car garage. So even though the house is further back, because it's attached, as well as if it wasn't attached, there had to be another variance to have a structure in front of the primary structure. But since it's attached, we don't have to worry about that. It's all considered one structure.
And as we're looking at the adjoining property, is there a house on number 2 yet?
Yes, the house is being built on number 2, and I think number 1 is almost done building.
Do we know where the house is on number 2?
I really don't have a footprint of the house. I would rely on a Google Images.
See the corner of it in that picture.
Oh, that's the other house? Okay, I thought that was this house, but they had already started building.
And just to clarify, that middle lot received a variance in the past to reduce their setbacks as well, so.
I think Ms. Keller raised it. Can you put the pictures up so we have a common reference of the site pictures? Yes. So the view from this driveway, is it? Shared driveway that goes up the stem.
Oh, does that stem, is that access to all 3 properties?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so that's their common driveway down the stem for all
Right.
3 properties?
In this case, yes, it's a shared
Okay,
easement.
Received a variance to reduce their front yard setback, just a side note.
what was, okay,
And so where we see the end of this shared driveway is the beginning of the flag portion of this applicant, for this applicant.
so the house we see being built, is that on property number 2?
Yes, the one that you're seeing is on property number 2, yes.
Okay,
It looks like the driveway, though, is not down the stem, but is
Across lots 1 and 2.
right here.
If
Yeah.
you put the 3 parcel subdivision plat up,
I was seeing that too, Brenda.
Yeah.
This development is still building, so it's, it's not completely going all the way to the lot.
I think what they're looking at is this thing here that looks like
Mhm.
is that the driveway or no?
That is a driveway, yeah.
Okay, so
That
this-
is a shared driveway, and when it enters the lot, that's when their driveway starts.
But it looks like the stem is north of the shared driveway. Is that what you're seeing, Brenda? Okay.
Well, this page is from their final plat. If they have done it differently, they have to give us back the as-built drawings. And
let's get clarification when the applicant comes forward on this, but I think what you're calling out makes sense given the orientation of the garage as proposed. So we can keep this up and we'll get clarification as we pull the applicant, if they have an opportunity to present. Any other questions?
What was the variance granted on property number 2? Do you know?
to reduce the front yard setback from 60 feet to 25 feet.
Okay.
And the rear from 50 to 25. So they
So
got two.
Thank you.
Okay, if the applicant would please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is David Fortenberry. I'm the property owner for 12745 New Providence Road, Milton, 30004. So thank you for your time. I'm here to request a variance for an interior setback on the southwest side of the property from 60 feet to 25 feet. I'm requesting your approval of this variance for the following reasons. Number one, moving west to east on the property, as you can see from the topography, it slopes very significantly. In fact, it's about a 26-foot decline from the front of the property to the back. Moving the house forward up to the 25-foot setback limit would decrease the need for a lot of retaining walls, which will help me from a cost standpoint, but also from an aesthetic standpoint. I mean, as it stands now, some of those retaining walls, I mean, just physically would have to be closer to 10, 14 feet, which I know is not feasible. So that will help us in that regard. The current limits of the lot include the, as you can see, the 75-foot impervious creek setback with the current 60-foot setback on the southwest corner of the lot. It's technically the front setback, but it's more off to the side if you see it adjacent to Fred Milani's property at 12735. Given that, plus the 50-foot setback in the back, of the 1.92 acres, about 35% is actually buildable. You can see how kind of compressed it is given all the restrictions. Also, granting this relief will help us stay more on the flat part of the lot. If there's any positive in terms of actually building and constructing, it's early in the lot. It's towards the front of the lot, the west side, because it's generally flat. You can even see from the topography that it's mostly flat. There is a little bit of decline, but not like you would see as you get about halfway through the lot, all the way back to the east side. There are 3 total lots, as you can see on the site plans in our subdivision. Both of the other lot 2 and lot 1, both have been granted a 25-foot setback in prior zoning appeal meetings. And I think this would help in consistency for the neighborhood. I've also spoken with both of the neighbors in the neighborhood, including our adjacent neighbor, Fred Milani, and they fully support this request. Hopefully it's in your packet, but I did submit their letters of support in the application. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, but that's the formal comments that I'm.
We do have the letters of support from your 2 neighbors, so thank you for that. Can you, as we still have this up on this projector,
Yes.
can you address the questions regarding the shared driveway and where that enters your property?
Yes, the shared driveway is just to the south of the stem portion of the lots, all 3 lots.
You can show it. It's up. You can use the little.
I'm sorry?
If you go ahead and pull the subdivision plat off the side
Where do
here.
I
No, there's
pull
a
it?
projector, just like old-fashioned
Oh,
projector.
just the old fashioned one.
Yeah.
Okay.
If
So
you,
here that you can see for our lot, this is the stem portion, this is New Providence Road. There's a second stem for lot number 2. The subdivision actually, part of the subdivision where we run all of this stem portion is like a meadow. It's like a common area where we can have, neighborhood. Just to the south of those stems for all 3 flag lots, there is a shared driveway, and it empties out right where our property begins, very back of the subdivision.
if you would pull that subdivision plat off and move down to where you act in the pictures and move to your lot.
So this is where the open.
Okay, and pull those off as well. On the southwest corner, we could see the dashed lines there. That's where the shared drive would be entering your property. Great. Okay. As you heard in my comments to staff, be looking for your guidance regarding the amount of encroachment. So specifically, at the closest point to the front property line, where, what is the distance to the garage, corner of the garage? And similarly, what is the closest intersection from the front porch to the front property line in terms of linear feet?
Garage, it's 25 feet, so it moves all the way up to the 25-foot build line from the property line. And for the main structure of the house, it's about 40 feet. The property line, 15 feet inward from the 25-foot build line.
Right, or in reverse, it's 20 foot into the
Yes.
setback.
When you're generally speaking, can you be in front of the microphone and just?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is recorded and broadcast. So, as I've noted from your points, the front corner of the garage encroaches up to the 25-foot building line. The front corner of the porch encroaches 15 feet into the 60-foot setback or 40 feet from the property line.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant?
Yeah,
Sure, Don.
does moving this closer, in other words, if you come up to the 25-foot line, does this make the house more visible from the road, or is it purely impacting, if you will, the lot number 2? That making sense? In other words, you've moved 40 feet close, in effect, it's on a diagonal, but closer to the road.
Yes.
Does that make you more visible to the road, or is it?
I would have to imagine that it would to some degree.
Trees.
Because there will be some trees there, of course, but the lot is flatter at that level, so it will maybe sit a little higher in that respect. So yes, to answer your question,
Otherwise, primarily your encroachment is towards lot number 2.
yes, that is correct.
Okay, that's, thank you.
Can you give us if you go back to the subdivision plat, which has the three parcels on it, approximately what is the distance that you sit off the road? From there to New Providence?
It's going to be about 400 feet.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
pretty far.
Yeah. And while we have this up, there was a question regarding the orientation of the home, approximate orientation of the home on lot number 2.
Yes, if you were to see the lot in terms of the parallel lines on both the southwest side and the northeast side.
You can point down here.
Yeah, you can just point on there.
Parallel lines here.
Mm-hmm.
Facing in that.
But where,
They're on the lot.
kind of where the number 2 is?
Yeah.
Okay. So your home is offset slightly from the home in front of it? Okay. Okay.
Well, they have to be, if they had a 25-foot reduction of their front yard, aren't they going to have to be closer towards the street, to the driveway? Is that the front of their house?
It's odd on the flag lot because even though it's considered a front setback, it's like the sides.
Okay, so is the number 2 house not facing the driveway? It
That
is.
shared driveway.
Okay,
So it's a little bit, it's oriented the same way the lot's oriented, so it's cocked a little bit to the left.
okay.
Yeah.
So is your house going to be looking,
Down the shared driveway, like directly down the shared
so,
driveway.
and you would almost be looking at the side of their house?
Maybe it would be their northeast corner, if I'm getting my direction correct.
I got
It'll be
you.
like their northeast corner.
Okay,
And it's not their garage side, it's kind of there's a pretty big wall there that they're building.
We'll see if we have any public comment from one of your neighbors. I do know you have letters of support, so. Any other questions? Okay, if you take a seat, we'll see what sort of public comment we may have, and then you'll have a chance to make a closing comment if you care to. Do we have any public comment cards?
No.
None. All right. Then last chance for any closing comments, if you care to, or any questions from the board? You don't need any closing comments, thank you. All right, well then, if there's no questions for staff or the applicant, I'll make a note that the public comment is closed, and I'd open the floor for a motion in a second. I'll make a motion to approve V21-20 per the site plan received August 4th, 2021. As noted through our discussion, the garage encroachment is up to 25 feet to the front property line. The residence encroachment is up to 40 feet at the corner, as noted in that site plan.
Second.
I'd also comment that I feel the applicant addressed 4 variance considerations in terms of the uniqueness of the spirit and intent of the ordinance and how that applies with a flag lot situation, the orientation and the encumbrances they have with the topography, and the stream buffers, as well as the impacts to the neighbors, and noting their letters of support and public safety, health, and welfare are secured. Any additional discussion? All those in favor of approving V21-20, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion passed unanimous. Good luck with your project. The next item on our agenda is V21-21, 790 Landrum Road.
This has been withdrawn by an applicant.
So the applicant has requested in writing to withdraw
Yes,
this
the
application?
email is in your packet.
Okay, we do have an email dated Tuesday, August 24th, 2021, from Michelle Gallagher requesting withdrawal for the request. Do we need to make a motion to accept that withdrawal?
Yes, it was advertised, so they need to make a motion.
Afterwards, okay, yes.
Okay, I make a motion to accept the withdrawal request on case V21-21.
Second.
Any discussion? There was a battle for second on that, Brenda and Stephanie. Any discussion? All those in favor of accepting the withdrawal, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The motion to accept the withdrawal passed unanimous. Do we have item number 7, any consideration of appeals or secondary variances?
No,
Item number 8, any old business?
no.
Item number 9, any new business?
No.
Can I bring up something?
Sure.
And maybe I'm way off base here, but it seems like we're seeing a lot of, development here, and I'm wondering if people are obviously trying to squeeze as many houses into property that they can. And I think we could be at somewhat of a disadvantage when we don't see the whole scope of what's going on and we're taking it piece by piece by piece. So, I mean, this gentleman, I mean, the other two people got their variances. So, but are we setting up kind of ourselves to not have our neighborhoods look the way we want them to look? And I don't know if there's anything we can do about that. So I don't know if that's new business or if I'm the only one that's concerned about that. But thought I'd go on record.
There definitely is development pressure. One comment I can make is in the Milton's comprehensive plan, which is a rewrite this year. It's awaiting adoption by City Council. As part of that process, there was a request of council to institute a moratorium on flag lots. And that has taken place. So this case we heard tonight is a flag lot. Well, going forward, there's a moratorium on flag lots.
Were they all kind of set up as flag lots?
There
Hence-
isn't a moratorium. There is not a moratorium. There was discussion at Planning Commission, but it did not happen.
It did not happen.
No.
There's a request in the comprehensive plan
look at it,
for
yeah.
council to adopt a moratorium or to eliminate, I should say, right?
To study it.
To study and eliminate the flag lots going forward.
I think the other thing too, though, is I agree with you, but we just made it less expensive for him. He could have still built the house.
No, I
Or-
understand that. I'm
Or he
just
could have
talking
made it
about,
smaller or, still buildable lot. We just made it easier for him. But he could have, if we said no, he still could have built on that lot
right,
because he was able to carve out.
right. I was just seeing a pattern,
Yeah, I agree.
and it's like, oh, we're kind of being unduly or unwittingly, ended around by maybe these developers, and we're not getting really what we want for our community. So,
I can tell you as part of the comp plan and planning commission, as well as our planners, we're heavily involved in that. That is a legitimate and ongoing concern. There's heavy language in there and direction towards larger lot incentives. And as we discussed, the flag lot concerns.
The
So
only thing you could do is probably like those flag lots. Each piece of property has to have 35 feet of road frontage, which is why they're flag lots. But the driveway could be shared. It doesn't have to be on that person's property. There's not a common piece of property needed. They could just have an easement, a shared easement that everyone agrees, even though the driveway's on my property, I don't have all right to it.
right.
So if you made a stip that every parcel has to have a drive, then that could eliminate
Or
future flag lots.
even with these, new developments, these small neighborhoods, less than, 10 or 15 properties, if we're kind of getting a picture of it when the first one comes in, kind of see what is the big plan here? Are we all is everyone gonna need, the reduction in their setbacks? But
yeah, I think we're reliant on our planning department and city council to address those concerns during the subdivision plat process. I do know we had a recent example of council stepping in as well as the planning department on I think it was a 10 or 11 parcel subdivision on Cogburn Road that abuts a stream buffer, and there's, I believe, 2 lots within there are heavily restricted from variance requests because they are so close to the stream buffer. So that was an example where council got ahead of seeing that trend of accessory structures and pools and stream buffers and just caught it beforehand and said those properties will not be eligible for those sort of variances.
And I do feel, sympathetic to new home buyers because they don't always know. I mean, 75 feet's a lot of property that you can't use. So of course, everybody wants a pool. And so I am sympathetic to that sometimes people just really don't know. But Okay, well, I've gone on record.
I have one other, I'm not sure if this is new business, but can we get any further explanation on the, what's going to happen with the staff recommendations and whether they're stopping and why they're stopping, or I don't quite understand that change.
Well, I got that direction from my supervisor, so I'm just following it.
And you report up through the Director of Community Development.
Mhm.
I don't know about you all, but I found the recommendations from staff very helpful in terms of, they used to just give us a recommendation, which was fine, but then they started us giving recommendations on each of the points. I found that helpful. We don't necessarily have to follow their recommendations. I'd like to see how everybody else feels, but I almost feel like we should make some sort of a written letter from the board to request maybe starting again or reconsidering doing this or something. If we have to make that a motion, we can make it a motion. I don't know how you'll feel about it, but I kind of not having those recommendations, I think it lessens our ability, I think, to make a right decision.
What I would recommend you do, Don, is reach out to the community development director and understand his rationale, and that might give you a different perspective.
I hear you, Todd, and that's one way. I'm almost thinking that I'd like to bring up a motion. I think I will. I'd like to make a motion. And you can see how you all agree or don't agree. I think I'd like to make a motion that a letter goes from this board requesting the Director of Community Development to give us an explanation of going forward, whether there'll be any recommendation, and if not, why not? My motion.
I don't think my perspective is, I don't believe we need to be so formal. I think we can reach out, you individually or collectively, and make that request. I'll defer to council whether or not that it needs to be an official motion. We haven't done that before, so.
Individually, it certainly wouldn't be appropriate to need to be a motion. If the board were to formally address the issue as a board, it would need to be a motion seconded and approved by a majority of those present voting to constitute the act of the board. If it were to go forward as the board requesting further information.
So my preference, again, would be that you reach out individually, and if you still feel strongly about it, then that would be something to address in a formal motion. I wouldn't want to encumber the community development director to have to go on record with his explanation where it may be satisfied through an individual conversation. That's my perspective.
Well, I understand, but I have a motion. If nobody seconds it, it dies, so.
Right. So your motion would be to request the community development director provide an explanation to this board as to the rationale for eliminating those staff recommendations?
Yes, I was going a little bit different. I was going to say request that this board, motion is that this board make a request for him to answer that, yes.
Yes. So you're looking for an explanation. We're looking.
Yeah, I just think it'd be better from the board. You all have to decide if you want to agree or not. Or do it individually.
So we have a motion. Is there a second? Okay. I'm sure Mr. Buscemi would take your call and address
I
that.
understand, but if he agrees with, so I don't know what happens then if he says to me, yeah, Don, I agree with you, but I'm not going to change my mind. It would seem to me, well, I thought you all on the board would want to see the same thing, and we should go as a joint group requesting that. But if you all don't think we need those, then I guess there's no sense in me going out or anybody going out talking to him.
I wouldn't want to stop you from pursuing it, is my point. But I don't think my personal, just one person, is I don't feel we need to compel him to provide something in writing back to this board that I think could be satisfied through a conversation.
Okay, I don't particularly think a conversation from me is going to do anything, so I'm probably not going to bother doing that. I mean, I just don't think, anyway, that's my position.
Understood.
Okay, thank you.
I think having a letter or statement from the applicant outlining the 4 items and the criteria that we have to meet, what's their viewpoint in terms of whether they meet those or not is more important to us in terms of
That's a
making
good-
our
that's a
decision,
good point, yeah.
because then we can balance.
And staff, we've asked staff, I've asked staff, I should say, whether or not they're insisting on that detail in the appeal letter, and Shuba assures me that that's something they're making a greater point of emphasis.
Right. At the pre-application meeting, I am telling them that you have to address all these standards or criteria.
Good, yeah. Good point, Hus.
Okay. If there's no other new business, item number 10.
I make a motion to adjourn. Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, say nay. We are adjourned.